Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though.
Bentley's alongside and ahead. Look at that! Hamilton and colossally that's backside is the opportunity to say there's
Hamilton's going to try again, this time on the inside and continent touch!
Oh my goodness, this is fantastic!
Hello everybody, welcome back to TOTL Motorsport. Apologies for the delay in getting everything started here today. Just obviously a smaller grid than we would otherwise be used to here, but what's just happened? What has just happened? What's just happened? I just watched this man drive into a wall and get disqualification. I think we might want a session restart here. We'll maybe do a session restart. I don't know. Let's check on this real quick. We'll mute up and then be right back. Okay, well, nobody said anything about a session restart, so I'm just going to assume that everybody's fine. I think there's been a little bit of shenanigans with some pit bot exit there for Burnsy and Zazel. Obviously, Afro went straight into a wall at the end of the pit lane. So unsure quite what's happening there, but as long as it gets sorted. Okay then, let's see. Who's on laps? Ryan Randall. I've seen that he's been a bit of a time trial merchant this week, so we'll see. Nope, he's already hit a wall. We'll see whether he can do anything. I definitely think he had a tap with the wall there, but I don't think it's going to have hurt him too much. 5 place grid penalty for PDU. Not sure again what's going on here. That's a collision with Afro in the pit lane, I think. It's all kinds of scuffed up. Another collision with the wall there for Randall. Hopefully not going to have damaged his car too badly, but looks like he's squiggling into the entrance of some corners here, so I doubt that this is going to be a particularly competitive lap from him. I think he's just trying to get the measure of the car throughout these early sectors. It's definitely very pedestrian from him there. I think he's bailed out of this lap. Needs to be careful of the Red Bull behind him, though. There is Edsters making his way into the castle section, very close to the barriers there. Definitely don't want to be hitting that. We've all seen that one go pear-shaped a few too many times. Is AJ coming back after a somewhat amount of time off? To set a 42.3. A good way to start the session for him, I suppose. But Edsters here looking to try and lay down the gauntlet. He has been one of the front runners this season thus far. There is Joshua Johnston going 3/10 faster than that of AJ up ahead. Now, still really interested in what this Edsters lap is going to be. Definitely somebody who's exhibited a fair whack of pace so far this season. So definitely excited to see how he's going to fare as probably about to be the 4th man to set a lap time here in this short qualifying session. Down the straight he goes. It's a wham straight, and we'll see as he crosses the line, of course. It was never really in doubt. Goes to the top of the timing screen. It's a 41.9. First man into the 41s as well, so I am imagining that we'll see continuous improvement on that as well. Speaking of men who are absolutely wham, here is Mikkel. He is a unit in the flesh, but can the old man pull out a few more new tricks here with this lap time? Where's this going to slot him in? He's already ticked over onto the 40 seconds. It's 42.5. Bottom of the pile for the moment of all those who've set a lap time. But still relatively comfortable, I would imagine, for Mikkel. He's always been a bit of a race pace kind of guy. So no stress there. What about Joseph? What about EOJ? He has been, he had a couple of good showings at least, I'll say. I won't say necessarily good results, but good showings. Moments in which he's proven to be a very adaptable driver. Moments in which he's been up the sharp end, but maybe a bit of misfortune has kind of pushed him away from where he would otherwise want to be. So let's see what his first lap out is going to be here. EOJ, as he rounds the final couple of corners. Looking to try and make this one a very tidy lap time here. I'll admit, it has been tidy, but whether it's been quick is an entirely different story. Onto the front straight, onto the start-finish line he crosses, and unfortunately for him, is going to slot in last of all those who have set a time so far. But there is one man on track that I am very, very excited to see back. It is my brother-in-arms, Ryan Crowhurst. My teammate for a long time in TOTL's history, and I wish him all the best as an absolute phenom on the pad and on the wheel. I don't know which one he's going to be using here in F123. One would imagine the wheel, but he has been known to be a TOTL champion in Season 3 on the pad. So, for Ryan Crowhurst, what's he got off the start here in his Alfa Romeo? Hasn't attended the first 2 rounds of this season thus far, and obviously ditched us for the Spa 24 too. So, what is he going to have in one of his first debut showings in sim racing here in TOTL in 2023? for Ryan thus far. It's looking pretty tidy on the first sequence of corners. First sector also looking good there as well. Plenty of margin on the exit, not running it too close to the wall. Doesn't really want to have all of that track give it up to him. It is a purple first sector, though, for the Season 3 champion. We'll see whether he's got anything left in the tank through the second sector, often where so many people lose and make their laps, especially through that castle sector. For the time being, it looks clean for Ryan. I don't know whether it necessarily looks quick. It's always hard to tell with some people's driving styles. Castle certainly looked like there was some margin there. Wasn't fully committed, as I've seen him be before. Good on the exit, though, from the castle section. Now, down into one of the trickiest braking zones on the calendar. You see lots of people lock up and go straight into the barriers here in real life, but for Ryan, absolutely no problem. Doesn't even take any curb on the inside either. Very, very tidy. Now into really the final real corner on track. It's a purple sector 2 for Ryan here as well. And now as he comes into the very fast, flat out, left then right, he will be absolutely hurtling towards this start-finish straight. He'll have the DRS open as soon as he possibly can, just about. Now that'll give him an extra, I think, 10 to 15 kilometers an hour as he comes down this front straight. It's a very good lap time so far for Ryan Crowhurst, and it takes him clear at the top of the timing screens by 0.5 of a second from Edsters. That is a sensational lap from my boy, and we'll see whether it's going to translate into better results this qualifying. Speaking of better results, though, Bilal Khan, what have you got? Bit messier on the curb than we saw Ryan Crowhurst up to on his run just around this Baku City circuit, but it is nonetheless going to be a purple sector 2 for Bilal Khan, if the track map is to be believed. Now Khan looking to try and throw the car left, then right again. Very, very quick and often very difficult to get through with two cars if there's going to be someone alongside you in the race. So for Khan here on this quali run, DRS now open his run to the line. He has been a huge protagonist in the championship thus far, and we'll see whether that can continue as he sets another purple lap time, lighting it up with a 41.1. Very now close to the 40s. He is now just going to be 0.3 of a second ahead of Ryan Crowhurst, and that's going to be a really solid start to the session for Khan, who's really looking to try and capitalise on his championship rivals this week. No Aaron Shard, no Peter Miller. Obviously, he hasn't been here for any of the races so far because he's an absolute scammer trying to get us into a racing season for him. Of course, no Robbie Bell either, worthy of mention. A couple of his main players in this championship absent this week here in the Summer Sprint. Last person then to set their first lap time, Adam Lockett. Phaser, what has he got in the tank? He's actually going to get a bit of a slipstream here, I think, from the Alfa Romeo in front of him. I think that'll be Ryan Crowhurst, but Crow will be pitting here any minute. So this slipstream will be short-lived at best, but he'll get a little bit of benefit from the tow. These two relatively good friends, from what I understand as well. So shooting now across the line for Adam Lockett. It is a 41.9, which will put him in P4. A very respectable time from Phaser there. As he finishes his first run, and all of those first runs have now been completed. Speaking of second runs, though, Zenik apparently up by 2.5 of a second at the end of the first sector. We'll see where that sits at the end of this second sector here. It's the more difficult of the three on the track, and obviously lots of time for mistakes to be made over this 1:40 lap. That definitely looked committed there through Castle for Zenik. Getting it very tidily pinned down to the apex of the exit 2. Looking good. Now shortest line of arrival in towards the next sequence of corners. Just going to wing the car out wide, but realistically could take it tighter if he so wanted. Good braking. Takes a fair amount of curb, and that unsettles the car quite massively, as you can see. Rear really stepping out on the exit of that corner there. But over half a second up, a huge snap of oversteer on really the final traction zone of the track, and that is going to affect him all the way down this front straight. It's going to affect him through this sequence of corners. It's going to affect him all the way down. He's going to lose time continually because he just didn't get the drive that he was looking for out of that final proper corner. As Zenik now runs towards the line, what's he going to have to offer us at the end of this qualifying run? It is going to be third place, a 41.782. Definitely feel like there's some more time on the track there, though, for Zenik in that particular run. Joshua Johnson, unfortunately, his lap is not with him at the moment. 3 seconds up on his previous time. But what about AJ? Your boy AJ, who is just rounding into the first sector. I think he's actually just finished his lap, if I'm not mistaken. Was up by 1/10 on it. We'll see whether the red light is flashing. No, it's not. Okay, this could be a lap here from AJ then. We'll see what is cooking at the end of this first sector. Red light is flashing now. I'm guessing that is a charging lap. We'll see at the end of the first sector what he's at. Oh, apparently he's up on his previous best whilst charging. Does he realise he's not got his battery on? Or is this a strategy here from AJ to not have your battery on through the slow stuff to give you an advantage on traction? I'm not totally sure if this is a lap or what this is, but it's if to be believed, quicker than what he's been doing before. Not by much, albeit, but still quicker. He'll definitely notice the lap time going away from him here if he's not using that battery. I am so confused by what I'm seeing. Maybe the red lights are a lie, and he is using his battery. Okay, surely not. 0.3 of a second away. Battery not on here. It's not going to be an improvement in lap time. So, Zenik has retired from the session. I think there has actually been an accident there for Zenik. Not quite sure what the accident was, but it's a 0.6 of a second improvement there for Mikkel as he crossed the start-finish line. That's a 41.8 now for the Scotsman. That's a very impressive and respectable lap time for him too. Now, EOJ, I think just starting his lap here. Trying to dig himself out of a P10 start at the moment. I think he might think that he's a little bit bigger than that, a little bit better than that. Actually, red light flashing again. This is probably an in-lap here for EOJ. At least that would put him in sequence with everybody else if that is to be the case. Yeah, I don't think this is a lap here from EOJ, to be honest with you. So, what about Michael? What about Afro? What has he got in the locker? Obviously, I can't imagine much. He is self-proclaimed to be not the best at this game at the moment. Is putting the time in where he can find it, but his wheel doesn't exactly fit on his desk properly. And as such, a couple of issues caused with that, which are uncomfortable to say the least. So it is likely to be Fanatec time for the boys soon. But I think we have PDU actually starting a lap at the moment. We'll see whether this lap time is going to be even remotely competitive here on Azerbaijan. Whether he's got anything in. Thank you, by the way, PDU, for coming in at the last minute. It is very much appreciated for your help in securing more drivers for this race and qualifying session. And in the Haas, alongside his friend Zazel, disqualified from this session for some unknown reason, but getting a lot of kick there on the exit of these corners here from PDU. Really quite struggling to get the traction out of some of these corners, or at least try and find the grip that he's looking for. Car looks very, very sketchy on the rear end. Want to get over to the left-hand side of the track here so he can flick the car in right. You can take a lot of that curb on the inside, but you saw it again there. The car kind of straightening itself out just a little bit too much. And then again, up through Castle, just didn't look the tidiest. Definitely a shaky setup on that car. Very, very wide of what would have been the curb on previous titles of F1 game, but not this time. And as such, traction still to be found out there too. But keeping it nice and steady. As long as he makes it round, I suppose that's going to be the objective here. He's got plenty of time to play with. Nearly a second to get up to Randall in P11. So just any kind of improvement will definitely be very much appreciated of PDU. But at the moment, 2.5 tenths down on what it was his previous best time of a 43.419. And we're hoping to see maybe something come good of that in this final sector. The final sector is essentially a run to the line. So if you are running a very low downforce setup, you can make up a wealth of time here on this final run to the line. But I don't think it's going to be much here for PDU. No, a 43.608. Improved a little bit, but not really enough to make any kind of dent into the timing screens. Now, Afro, up by 1/10 of a second on his previous best. That's going to be putting him into the mid-45s here. Definitely could have turned in a little bit earlier and scraped a bit more time off that. Didn't make full use of the track on the exit either, but through the castle section, it is mighty tidy. Actually, no battery usage going on through there, if I'm to be believing that. But now the battery comes back on. Or does it? I can't tell. We'll have to see at the end of this sector whether this is a push lap here from Afro or not. Excuse my dog if you can hear him. Really apologise for that. Yeah, I don't think it is a push lap here for Afro, to be honest with you. Well, let's see. Anybody else going to be on a lap here? What about Edsters? I think he's just starting a lap here. as he runs through the first sector. First DRS zone open right away, trying to barrel in towards the next sequence of 90-degree left and right corners. That's the one thing about the first sector here at Azerbaijan. It is relatively unoriginal. It's just left 90-degree. Oh, huge snap of oversteer from Edsters, but he does well to collect the car in the midst of all of that. I mean, obviously wouldn't want to crash, but I feel the lap time now is just almost certainly going to be away from him. 0.6 of a second he lost through that little, well, I would say little moment, but it was absolutely massive there on the exit of the first sector. Really could not control that car. It snapped across to one side of the track, then back again to the other. Now he's probably got a little bit of time to make up, but it's how much, it was the question really, of how much was he on the limit on that second lap where he put in that 41.9. Is he going to be able to find 0.6 of a second and more in these final 2 sectors of the lap? I can't really see that being a reality, to be totally truthful with you. And he's just taken out the bollard and hit the wall. So unfortunately for Edsters, that is his qualifying session done. But what about the qualifying session here of Ryan Crowhurst? Of course, previous TOTL champion, the only TOTL champion in the lobby at the moment, I might remind you. So he is the pedigree here today. Not at the moment the class of the field, definitely not race fit. He's a bit out of practice in this department. I think he will have a tough battle against Carnosaur today, but nonetheless, Crow still striving for perfection as he rounds the final sequence of corners here. Roll, at least I say braking zones. Should we amend that to? Let's see where he's up to on the lap time as he ends the second sector. He is over 0.5 of a second up. That's nearly 0.6 of a second. We are begging here for essentially what is going to be a 1 minute 40 lap of some description. We'll see whether Khan has anything to match up to this, but so far this is looking like it is going to be smashing away at the top of the timing screens here for Ryan Crowhurst. What has he got as he runs it to the line? Shortest line of entry. It's a 40.897. Just over 0.2 of a second faster than Bilal Khan behind. Jay Rasta comes in with a 41.3. What has Khan got, though, as he crosses the line? Is it going to be pole position for Khan? You best believe it is by 0.3 of a second. He finds more time on Ryan Crowhurst. The Aston Martins will lock out the second row by the looks of things. Meikle, the only person with anything to say about that, and he may yet still find a way to upset that party. No, unfortunately not. Just improves on his position by 1. Joshua Johnston also does the same by knocking Zenik down a peg. And that is qualifying done and dusted. A few messy laps in there and a few good ones towards the end, but truly a very, very difficult session for quite a few people within all of that fracas and within all that melee, really. It is going to be Khan, though, on pole, looking for a 3rd straight win here. Ryan Crowhurst, on his return to TOTL, comes in on the front row. A very solid result for him to strengthen and support his campaign moving forward. Jay Rasta with an unpredictable 3rd place, out of nowhere really, followed by his teammate Adam Lockett to come in 4th, AJ in 5th, Meikle in 6th, Joshua Johnson in 7th, Zenik 8th, Edsters 9th, and Randall rounds out the top 10. We will hop to a quick break. We'll be back in just a minute with the start of the race. Apologies for the delay, folks, but we're immediately off to the races. In the first corner, Ryan Crowhurst has got an absolutely mega drive on Bilal Khan, but Khan has got up around the outside of the first corner, and now Rasta has got Ryan Crowe for company. It's 3 wide in the back of the picture there, but thankfully I think everybody's made it through. It's very, very frantic. It's very, very dangerous, but good racing towards the back. I think everybody, on the most part, has made it through without too much damage or any collisions. Up the front, though, it is going to be Khan who's managing to run away with this one. First things first. Let's have a look at the tyre compounds for everybody here. Everybody on mediums right away, and you can see that the strategy there will likely just be mediums to hards or medium soft. I don't think we're going to see any 2-stops here at the moment. I think it will mostly just be the 1-stop strategy, providing there are no safety cars. But if there are safety cars, we'll see how that will affect the way this one plays out. 26 laps, of course, around this Baku City Street circuit. It's going to be an interesting one, and Bilal Khan has already made the breakaway. Nearly got out of that second window that he needs to get rid of the DRS, which, might I add, is extremely powerful here on Baku with that long DRS straight at such a high speed as well. It really does provide a very nice advantage to the trailing cars. That's a car in a wall, though. I think that's Mikkel. We'll see whether he's got any wing damage out of that. And that's also, I think, EOJ behind, who's also had a brushing with the wall. Whether they have damage or not is a different story, but definitely something to keep an eye on, whether they fall backwards or not. But for the time being, I think Ryan Crowhurst has had to use a fair whack of battery and is still using a fair whack of battery to try and stay in the wheel tracks of Bilal Khan ahead. Khan had to use barely any of his battery so far, but it looks like that is going to be profiting a move up the inside into turn 1 here for Ryan Crowhurst. He wants to try and get ahead and keep Khan at bay, or at least stop him from getting out of that DRS for as long as is humanly possible. We'll see now whether Khan decides to turn on the DRS, or sorry, the ERS down this second straight, this front straight here. What is the first DRS opportunity of this Grand Prix? A little bit more battery usage there from Ryan Crowhurst, as you can see. Both of these guys using that battery just to try and keep themselves in a position that's competitive, and with that little bit of scrapping they're doing, they're also breaking away from Jay Rasta and the following Aston Martins behind. Ryan Crowhurst, for now, though, just has to defend. And then at some point, of course, it is going to be an inevitability that with the DRS, Bilal Khan will get on by. But it's just going to be more of a question of when and whether Ryan Crowhurst can stick around on the back of Khan for as long as possible, I think. Oh, that's Afro out of the session. I think that's a collision with a wall there, or is that in the castle section, maybe? Unsure, but either way, it has not prompted a safety car here. So, unfortunate for Afro. I think a little bit more practice might need to be done. I might need to give him a helping hand with that one. But I am thoroughly impressed here with the pace of Jay Rasta to get onto the start of the second row for 1. And now to stay with this leading duo for 2, I think is thoroughly impressive at this stage in the race, for sure. So, as you can see, he's also managing to stay within what would be that DRS window, that faux DRS window for now, which is about to get activated. As we cross the start-finish straight, we will see the DRS activation after that fastest lap notification goes away. Of course, Jay Rasta here will not have DRS this time around, but he has also allowed Adam Lockett to get back into his DRS. And we'll see now whether Khan has anything with the DRS active. ERS, DRS active, but a terrible exit off the corner there. Is it going to be enough to get up to the gearbox and even past the Alfa Romeo up front? Very late braking there from Khan. Has a touch with the wall, as a matter of fact. I don't know whether that's going to have caused him any damage, but definitely locked the brakes on his way into the corner. And that definitely didn't help him whatsoever. And that little bit of scrapping again has brought Jay Rasta to the party. He's right close now, back within touch of that DRS window that he was looking for. And Ryan Crowe just keeping that mercurial defense, trying to box him in, basically. Get these other drivers behind into the picture and see if they can start to disrupt the championship leader at this time in the McLaren. Up through the castle section, though, for Ryan Crowe. This looks good so far. He's doing everything that he needs to keep Khan at bay. Of course, the battery is just going to be that little bit of a problem, though. There's such a huge difference between their ERS recovery and percentages at the moment that Khan holds all of the cards, I feel, especially with the DRS about to be activated here on this lap. For Khan coming down this big front straight. And to be honest with you, if Rasta is close enough, he might even be able to benefit from a move here in the slipstream with the DRS as well. So try and be opportunistic where you can, but we'll see the potency of this DRS really coming in now as it gets opened here at the corner, just after the corner. Any second now, we're going to see those wings open, and it's going to be a very clean, very, very easy pass here for Khan to take the race lead back from Ryan. We'll see whether Crow has anything to offer here as we enter another DRS zone. Of course, this gives him an opportunity to try and clap back on some of that time. 0.3 of a second is the gap already, but it won't be that long by the end of this straight. DRS already open for Ryan. Huge amounts of top speed gained, but it's all not to be found because it's accelerating mostly here. So you don't really get a huge amount of benefit from the DRS on this initial front straight. And now this is where Khan has really got to put the hammer down to try and break the back of Ryan Crowhurst on this lap, or force Crow to use a fair whack of his battery to try and respond to the pace that Khan is putting out. And you can see it already, a huge amount of pace exerted on this lap here. 0.9 of a second in just a sector. Huge amounts of pace. I do not like the onboard spectator because it's just like constant revving and constant locking of the brakes, so I can never know if it's actually a case of bad driving or not. Either way, I think it's safe to say here that Khan has absolutely demolished himself away from Ryan Crowhurst, and that is going to be the end of that one, I think. That little battle at the front was looking so good and has subsequently now fallen apart for him. So as they end this lap number 4, I think it's fair to say that Khan is the one in the commanding position, and it's going to be Jay Rasta now looking for a move on Ryan. Whether he's got it or not is a different story. I think Ryan tucks to the inside to try and defend, but there's no real defense to be offered. The DRS is just far too powerful, and before the braking zone, Rasta is already through. So Crow, really no response on that one, but might have something to say about it here as we go down into this next DRS straight. Battery being activated here for Crow, and he's just going to sail past Jay Rasta, who I think got a really untidy exit off of the corner there. So unfortunate for Rasta, but at least he held second place for a little bit of time. But there's one man in the back of the picture who has just managed to pluck his way up to 4th place, who has had some pace in the last few rounds and will inevitably be on his way up to the back of these two if they continue fighting in some capacity. That man, of course, is Edsters. Has been quick in that Red Bull so far this season. Has admittedly been overshadowed by his teammate Robbie Bell at times, but I don't think that's anything to scoff at. Robs is obviously a very, very quick driver, and we'll see whether Edsters has got anything to match that kind of caliber today. At the moment, the gap isn't really moving too much from that 2.2 second mark, really. So we'll see if there is anything on the table. But Jay Rasta at the moment doing an absolutely stellar job. And I will say that also on Khan's front, just absolutely lightning quick through that middle sector. Gained so much time on these two. Every single lap through there. Already the gap to 3 seconds. At the start of this lap, it was 1.3. This is surely going to be a new fastest lap of the race here from Khan. He's been absolutely steaming away with it. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier here for Ryan Crowhurst as he's still under pressure from Jay Rasta behind. That DRS activated any second now. And from that point, I'd imagine that you're going to see the Aston Martin just hammer on by the Alfa Romeo. No contest, really, as he's clearly in front before the braking zone. No real worries at all with that move. But again, I fear we're about to see an exact repeat of the lap before, where Ryan Crowhurst sticks to the back of Rasta through the first sector and then just gets that DRS activated again to now try and go straight back by him and not give him a chance to lead a lap here for these two. That is exactly what we see. Ryan Crowhurst goes straight on by. The battery percentage for these guys looking about the same as well. So they don't really have too much to fight each other with apart from their raw skill alone. A little bit of a mistake on the exit from Crow invites a little bit of a look there from Rasta, but again, nothing really happening. Again, another mistake from Crow, though, is going to invite another little peek from Rasta to the inside, but once more, not able to make the move stick. But all of these mistakes that have been happening here from Crow on this lap, these little moments of oversteer on the exit of corners, spinning the rears up, missing braking points, and all that kind of stuff, has brought Edsters well and truly into the picture here. Just 1 second back, or now even less than that. I think he really smells blood in the water and is pushing on to try and get within that DRS zone to make sure that he doesn't lose touch with them again. I think we're going to be seeing this 2-horse race turning into a 3-1 very quickly. Another bit of a moment on the corner exit there for Crow. Can't help but feel that didn't look totally natural. Couldn't quite straighten the car out the way he wanted to, and the rear did start to snap around a bit on him. But this time around, we're going to expect another move to be made as J Rasta in the slipstream pulls out of the slipstream and is practically already by before the DRS is activated. Crow will not really have much of a defense to offer up to this one. Is going to be a sitting duck, but into the braking zone. It's going to need to make up a fair bit of time in order to try and pass him again on this next DRS straight. They have another party interested in taking them both, though. Edsters has caught fully up to these guys now, right on their gearbox, and ready to try and take another bit of it, but Edsters is in a wall. Got it all wrong on the exit of, I think that's turn 2. Excuse me, and has absolutely whacked his car into the wall. He has damaged his front wing, and that is not going to be what Edsters wanted. He's got to go into the runoff here as well, and that is going to be a really bitter pill for him to try and swallow as he hits the wall again, trying to get out of here. Going to need to try and limp that Red Bull back round to the pit lane for a new front wing and a set of tyres, because ultimately that is far, far away from what he'd have wanted. But that does mean that this 2-horse race that was happening out front is back to being a 2-horse race. There must have been a mistake within that, by the way, from Ryan, because he has lost a huge amount of time to J Rasta ahead. J Rasta just keeping it nice and consistent on these corner exits. Really got this one down at the moment. And yeah, just seems to be pulling gradually away from Ryan Crowhurst here. It's up to a second. Crow needs to do a fair amount of ERS usage here on this little back straight before the DRS detection zone if he wants to try and get that DRS back again, because that really will be his only hope at getting back at J Rasta if Rasta continues to drive as well as he has done so far in this race. As it is, though, I don't think Crow really has much to offer here. I think, look, Rasta's used almost all of his battery to try and break this, so there is still 20% worth of battery for Ryan to try and play with. And I think he sees that red light flashing and thinks, all right, I can try and recover a little bit of my battery, drive really nicely through this middle sector and try and catch you organically rather than with the assistance of DRS. So we'll see whether that is something that Ryan has at his disposal here, but just needs to start trying to put some tidier laps together. The last, I don't know, 5 laps for Ryan really have been a bit messy, a bit disrupted. I think he probably wants some clear air just to try and find a rhythm to get back into the swing of things here in TOTL. Definitely not finding it, though. Still a messy couple of corners, losing tenths upon tenths for Crow. That's not what you want to see for the former champion. Oh, and he's tapped the wall. He's tapped the wall on the exit of the chicane. That's not what you want to see either. Really not getting to grips with these medium tyres. Seriously had the pace on the qualifying sets, but on these mediums just seemingly can't quite judge his braking points properly. Can't quite get the front of the car turned into the corner as well. And as such, I think that's why we've seen him lose so much time over the last few laps. Not just to Rasta here, but also to Khan in those opening laps too. And Khan is just, again, dominating in that middle sector. You can see it was at one point to start this lap down to 4 seconds, 3.8. I think first sector is not particularly great for him, but the setup that he's rocking is really potent in that middle sector. Just takes time away from these guys behind him, hand over fist in those sectors, and as such creates a very interesting battle. Speaking of interesting battles, though, for Joshua Johnston, he has long-term teammate Meikle behind, who is going to be interested in trying to put the moves on him. It's been a good season so far for Josh, it has to be said. Of course, in the first race in Imola, it wasn't really the result he'd have wanted after getting rear-ended by his teammate Khan, but having said that, you know, he has been putting in some consistent results. Looks relatively quick, potentially podium sort of pace at some of these races. And now he's got Meikle, of course, in his tracks, trying to hunt him down. Got very, very close in the entrance to turn 1 there. And still looking to try and get it all over again on the exit of turn 2. Meikle looking to really put the hammer down on him here. DRS open, battery activated, but I think got it all a bit wrong on the exit of the corner. 0.3 of a second. It's going to be a long dive from this far back, and I think Meikle realizes it. If there's nothing else about this guy, he is an extremely smart, extremely wise racer, recognizing when moves are on and when they're not, driving very much within himself, calculated risks at all times. Meikle, one of the safest guys on the grid in that aspect. look a bit further up the field. We have missed that Zenik and Fazer have been battling for the last few laps, but Zenik has managed to slot himself into that 4th position now. Just showing a tad more pace than what Adam Lockett is able to show at the moment. Lockett, I think, just losing touch on that DRS as well on this lap, and as such, I think may fall back just a little bit into the clutches of Joshua Johnson and Michael behind. Baku is a tricky old track though, and to be good at it consistently is a very, very difficult feat. So mistakes will be made at some point, I am sure. One thing I will do quickly, if I can, I will tab out in just a second and bring up the old chat, see if anybody's talking. We can have a little conversation if you are. Oh, is that Joshua into the pits? I believe it is. He's going into the pits on lap 10. He's going to try and do 16 laps on the hard tyres, it would seem. To be fair, if there was going to be a pit window, I would imagine it would be sooner rather than that's softs. That's soft tyres, Josh. That can't be right. But there is a car off, actually. Is that Michael? There is. Michael's off. He's off at turn 2. I think he's crashed or had a moment in the braking zone. Now can't get the car turned around. He's already rear-ended the wall there. Now just has to try and get the car sorted. Has he lost any front wing? Or has he just ran it on? Because now he's been overtaken by Joshua Johnson again on those soft compound tyres. So what's just happened there for Michael? I don't see any damage to his front wing. That is an extremely weird turn of events there for me, because I'm not sure what's gone on, but it's not been pretty, to say the least. So anyway, let's take a look. Where are we at? Pit stops have started to come in for a few drivers. Randall has gone onto the hard tyres, PDU onto the hard tyres, EOJ onto the hard tyres, AJ at the back of the field on the softs for the last 3 laps. Same with Edsters after he pitted to repair that front wing damage. Joshua Johnston, of course, we've just seen go onto the softs. Everybody else is still on the medium tyres, but that is a crash in Sector 2 for Burnsy. That is going to retire Burnsy from the race, and we'll see quite now whether that's going to affect anybody in terms of a safety car. It seems, again, no safety car here. Able to get the car off the track quickly enough, I suppose. Yellow flag in Sector 2 is that. I think AJ might have had a little bit of a brush with the wall. Yeah, he has. Front end plate damage to the front right corner of that... Oh, sorry, front left corner of that Ferrari. So that's going to hurt him, especially with those soft tyres on the car. He would already be wanting to make a pit stop anyway at some time or another, so probably best that he goes and does that now, gets onto the hard tyres and just tries and sticks it out to the end of the race, really. Oh, that's another tap with the wall. Can't brake in the same place when you haven't got the front wing, mate. It does provide you with some braking performance. Is that Michael having another accident? Oh, Michael's into the pits. He did collect some front wing damage there. And as such now has gone back into the pits to have that front wing changed. Puts the hard tyres on. And inevitably now will try and go to the end of the race on these hard tyres. Definitely not exactly the kind of result that Michael was looking for here. Especially after being in such a good position early on in this race, but for the time being, doing a great job. Gonna have to just try and slot back in now on these hard tyres, just put some good steady laps together, try and gain a little bit of time back on the cars in front of you too, see what positions you can make organically rather than through the pit stop phase. Hopefully for Michael, he can work it all out, get it all good. Big gaps emerging here on track. Nobody really that close to one another. Closest two on track at the moment are Ryan Crowe and Jay Rasta. But Ryan Crowe has decided it's time to go into the pits. Inevitably looking at the undercut here. Get rid of these medium tyres that are giving him some grief. And then put on these fresh hard tyres to try and just find a little bit more pace. A little bit more time back on Jay Rasta ahead, of course. Where he will obviously suffer more towards the end of the race, but I think these hard tyres are going to be in a good enough spot with just 14 laps on the car, to be honest with you, that it won't really matter all that much. And incredibly, Ryan, with the cars behind him also pitting, gets out in P3, the same position that he went in to the pit lane in. So he's going to have a clear 19 seconds of track to get those tyres warmed up, get himself dialed in to the way these tyres feel, and really have a good run at trying to crack down on some of the time back to Jay Rasta. Jay Rasta will, of course, seen that Ryan has dove into the pits at the end of lap number 12, or start of lap number 12, I should say. And we'll see now whether Jay Rasta is going to react, because I think Ryan is about to start taking a fair amount of time out of Jay Rasta on this lap with these fresh, hard tyres. You can already see the traction is definitely much better for Ryan on these tyres. It's down to 18.5 seconds. It was 19.5 seconds. So this could be over a second worth of undercut. Now these tyres are getting really, really warmed up here for Ryan. We'll see what Rasta elects to do at the end of this lap. We can see whether he thinks it's going to be worth going into the pits or not. Behind him, of course, Ryan is making up heaps of time on him, down to 17.7 seconds worth of it. I think he is coming into the pit lane here as well. Going to go over to the left-hand side of the track. That would indicate that he is coming in to stop and change these tyres. We'll have to see now where he comes out. This is going to be the interesting part of this. Ryan coming down this front straight here now. He's going to be well clear of him, I imagine. No movement yet in the pit lane at the Aston Martin garage for Jay Rasta. He's not made his way out of the box yet. I think he has just now. As he rounds the corner to try and get himself out of the pit lane, Ryan Crowhurst is ahead. And as he tries and gets up to speed, we'll see what the gap is going to be between the two. The gap is 0.7 of a second. DRS will be available here to Jay Rasta to try and stick with Crowhurst throughout this phase of the race now. Whether he can or whether he can't, different story, but that DRS has absolutely helped him so much. Pitting, reacting to the undercut that was tried to be pulled on him. It's definitely got Crow back ahead, but can Crow stay ahead is the question that we all need to be asking here. So far, it looks like those cold, hard tyres not quite finding the grip that Ryan was able to when he got them fired up around this point in the lap. And now, I think it's going to be over a second for this gap, and it might start to grow until those hard tyres come into a little bit of warmth for Jay Rasta. Of course, we have seen that Ryan has been making a fair few mistakes on in this race already as well. There is a huge ERS difference between the two cars as well here. 17% for Jay Rasta, 60-something% for Ryan Crowhurst. So if he wants to try and pull the pin, he's got more than enough resources to do so. Interestingly here, your race leader, Bilal Khan, has stayed out for these last two laps when everybody else has been coming into the pits. He obviously has such a supreme advantage. It was 8 seconds as Rasta came into the pit lane that he doesn't think that gap is going to be eaten into too much. So he's quite happy extending his stints to give himself some kind of cover, essentially, some kind of insurance towards the end of the race. Those tyres will, of course, be lasting. We got a battle going on here, though. Zenik and Joshua Johnston are fighting with one another. Of course, remember that Josh put those soft tyres on 4 laps ago, and they will definitely be worse for wear in just a few laps' time. He'll be losing out, I imagine, already at this point to the hard tyre runners because it's such a rear-limited circuit here at Baku. You need to make sure that you have a lot of rear grip. And those soft tyres getting spun up constantly, they'll be losing that rear grip very, very quickly. And all of that time that you would ordinarily make up under traction, you will now be losing under traction to the much more durable hard tyres. I think Ryan Crow here has played an absolute masterstroke with this undercut. You can see that the battery that he's been able to just save over these few laps has really put Jay Rasta in the grave here with regards to trying to catch back up to him. It's now up to nearly 3 seconds worth of lap time that Jay Rasta has lost. Overall, that's 5 seconds that Jay Rasta has lost to Ryan Crow throughout this pit stop phase. This undercut has worked absolutely beautifully, and surely it is now going to be time for Khan to come into the pit lane. Surely he's not going to stay out for much longer on these medium tyres, but it looks that he is coming in. Okay. Oh, big lock up in the pits there. I think even locked the rears trying to get the car stopped, but managed to collect it. Now, as these hard tyres go on, Where is he going to come out? You'd imagine he's going to come out in P1. I don't think there's really going to be much stress on this one. It's just going to be a question as to how close is the gap with Ryan Crowhurst on the exit of the pit lane. How close has Ryan managed to make this race for a short while before Khan clears off again? Well, it's down to 3.5 seconds. Probably going to be less because Khan's still got a bit of time to warm these tyres up. Has plenty of battery at his disposal, of course, but it's been a pretty good effort here from Ryan, honestly, to get himself into this position. Of course, Khan's tyres not going to be looking too tidy for the first sector, but that is PDU out of the race. Will that be a safety car? It doesn't look like it. Looks just like a yellow flag in Sector 2. No safety car again. Really interesting. That does surprise me. Apparently, we've had sensitive safety cars on the last 2 circuits, but when it comes to a street circuit, safety car is not nearly as sensitive, would you believe? So, looks like this race is going to slow down to a bit of a crawl here, as everybody is quite evenly spread out. The only 2 cars close on track, Zazel here, really looking to try and bear down on the back of Joseph. But at the moment, it doesn't really look like that's going to be happening too much. I think Joseph made a little bit of a mistake at the end of that last lap, and that's what's done it here. But I think that's Edsters now going into the pits to get rid of these soft tyres. Onto the mediums until the end of the race for 10 laps, and you'd imagine that Joshua Johnston will be doing the same thing if he hasn't already. Oh yeah, he has already. Okay, onto those medium tyres too. Hasn't really lost too much time, and will probably be quicker than Phaser by quite some margin. So towards the end of this next 10 laps, we might see those 2 close up on track. But EOJ has lost out in the end to Zazel here. Going to be trying to close in, darts to the inside, tries to outbrake Zazel. Doesn't leave too much room, and they both make a bit of contact, but they both somehow make it through that sequence of corners alive. Neither of them collecting a wall like somebody just has. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2. I think it is for AJ, who has gone straight into the wall at the castle section. That's another front wing gone for your boy. But nonetheless, this is looking like an interesting battle now, with Edsters on the medium tyres hounding the back of the Alpine. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't go for a move into Castle. That's crazed, and he's done it anyway. You got to say it's impressive driving, but at the same time, you can only do that if the guy you're passing is just going to allow it to happen. And I think it's safe to say that EOJ definitely did there. I think he realised that whether he wanted it or not, Edsters was coming through, and there wasn't really going to be anything he could do about it without taking both of them out. So, AJ retiring in the pit lane, unfortunately for him. And now Edsters looking to try and sail on by with DRS down this front straight, all the way past Zazel. Nice and easy. Now into turn 1. Is there going to be any room at the end? For Zazel to make a comeback, I don't think there is. I think these medium tyres are just going to be that much more superior to these hard tyres at this stage in the race, especially when they're nice and fresh. So you will see Edsters here try and truck on to the back of another medium tyre runner in Joshua Johnston up ahead. But whether he's going to have the pace to do that, I think he'll be feeling like he is, because when you're on these faster tyres, when everybody else around you is on hards, you feel like lightning. You feel like you can just do anything you want on the track and it's going to stick. It really is one of the best feelings in racing when you just know that you've got that inherent tyre advantage and you can just eat away at the time you've got to your opponents. But I think he'll be feeling himself a little bit here, and he'll be looking to try and press on. Already down to 5.8 seconds I saw for a glimpse there. So some good driving here from Edsters. Could see him up a few more positions if he has the time to try and crunch on that gap. But up front, I think things are looking relatively tidied up. Khan just even going a bridge further and putting the fastest lap of the race in. 43.1. Very respectable. Ahead of some people's qualifying time as well. So Edster's really hustling on now. He sets himself a fastest lap of the race this time around. A 42.994, and he's done that without DRS, much in the same way that Khan previously just did too. He's also closing in a lot of time very, very quickly to Joshua Johnson here. Let's look at quickly their tyres as well. I think Edster's tyres are a lap younger, and I'm right, they are. So we shall have to see how quickly this gap can come down. It's definitely going to. I think that much is clear. Everybody is so far spread out. It's like, what am I supposed to talk about at this point in the race? Let's have a look. Anyone in the chat? Just pull it up. Oh yeah, people in the chat. Safety car is set to off, by the way? Shouldn't be. I loaded the exact same settings from last week, so safety cars definitely should not be off. Yeah, I don't know. Same settings as last week were loaded, so safety cars should not be off in any kind of capacity. But if they are, I sincerely apologise for that. It must be a thing with either the save that I've created or the game itself. Unsure as to the reason why. Shows us off in settings. Interesting. It shouldn't do. Definitely shouldn't do. Use the exact same settings as we had last week, and in those races last week we had quite a few safety cars, if I recall. Anyway, apologies for that if that is the case. Anywhom, Edster's pressing on still. J Raster has closed up the gap a little bit here. Interestingly enough. Closed it up to 3 seconds. I don't know whether that's because of mistakes from Ryan, or whether J Raster has found a little bit of pace on these tyres now, but I think Ryan definitely has the battery to defend from him if he were to get close enough, so interesting, to say the least. Got 6 more laps left of this snooze fest. And we'll see what comes of it at the end. Joe Rasta is pushing on a bit here. Not as quite as much as I'd have anticipated, but given how the gap came down so dramatically, maybe it was a mistake from Ryan Crowhurst, but you can actively see that he is driving the wheels off the car, using the battery where and when he can as well. But a bit further back, we have somebody else who's also closing up to the rear of a potential position on these medium tyres that are much, much quicker than these hard tyres at this stage in the race. And that's Joshua Johnston, who's just whacked the barriers in the castle section. Somehow, I'm not seeing much damage there, but there's got to be damage for that McLaren on the exit here now. Maybe it's not visible, but there's got to be some kind of damage. That was a hard whack to the barriers, if it is to be believed. Yeah, I was going to say he's got the car tidily placed into the corner there, but I think that would be a lie. Got to be some kind of damage to that front wing now, especially. There has to be some. I refuse to believe that there is no damage to that car after those two hits. That was a meaty whack, and I think he's also got less than 10% battery too. Holding on, trying to hold on at least from Edsters, who is coming in fast from behind. Moves out of the slipstream into the inside of the corner and then just gets it ahead before the braking zone. Edsters has definitely been the quicker of the two drivers here on the medium tyres, and he will now be keen to hunt on down Fazer. I don't think anything more than Fazer is. I think that's a bit optimistic, really, to get onto the back of Zenik 10 seconds away. But still, P5 here for Edsters, I think, would be a great result considering how qualifying went in the end. I think he started P9. He's up 3 places at the moment. So getting P5 out of this one, damage limitation, I think that's really the objective here for Edsters. If he can be happy with that, if he's content with that, I think that would be the primary objective, to be honest with you. So let's see. Does Edsters have anything left in these tyres? Have they still got the grip left on them to try and catch back up? To Fazer, 1.6 seconds down the road. You've got to remember, basically, he just needs to make up 0.6 of a second, because once you get within that 1 second range, the work basically does itself if you can stay within that 1 second range. But he's getting it hugely messy on the exit of some of these corners. The rear stepping out almost all over the shop. Edsters has left the session. That's so sad if he's been disconnected. That's so, so sad. Oh, that's really sad if he has. Surely not. Disconnected or a game crash. That is a sad, sad one to happen at that time when he was making such good progress. P5 was, to be honest, almost a certainty at this stage in the race for him. That is really, really miserable that has happened to him. I feel so, so bad. Poor guy. That is really sad. Has Joshua Johnston then got what it takes to close down Fazer in P5? I think, again, for Joshua especially, anything more than that would be a long shot. I know that for Edsters it was looking possible. He had the pace for sure. I don't think really has the same pace that Edsters was exhibiting on those medium tyres, especially considering as his are also a lap older as well. That'll definitely be coming into play at this stage in the race. A bit further back, we've got Zazel and Meikle having a little bit of a ding-dong, and they're around the outside of each other. Meikle has just managed to tough that one out all the way around the outside and has managed to hold onto the position. So great work from the Scotsman. The old man still has a few tricks that he's yet to show this grid, and apparently here at Baku, where he has previously been a race winner in wet conditions, he's absolutely still got those tricks up his sleeve. For the time being, oh, that's a big mistake. Bit wide on the exit there from Zazel. Oh, wait. What happened? Is Khan pitted? Khan pitted for softs. He wants fastest lap, I think. He had enough of a gap that he thought he could pit for softs. He's come out behind Crow. I think on softs, he's just going to absolutely clear him anyway. So not a problem to be had here. With just 3 laps to go, this is probably the time to do it if you were going to for Khan. And to be honest, if I'm Crow, I might try and mess his day up here. I'm going to try and hold him up as much as is humanly possible. Really make him struggle for that. Never mind, that's not happened at all. Those soft tyres just have so much more grip. He's able to completely slide by him, essentially. Barely any contest given there for Crow. And I think we're going to see a very, very quick lap out of Khan on these soft tyres now towards the end of this race. We're going to see he has battery to burn and play with as well. I think he's got more than enough opportunity to clean up fastest lap here too. That, of course, was taken away from him by Estes with a 42.9 in one of the previous runs around the track on those medium tyres. So let's see, do those soft tyres bring him a very good lap time? We'll see as soon as we get down the front straight whether he can put a good lap together. It's really just going to be a qualifying session for Khan. It has been nothing short of dominant from start to finish. He's done the Max Verstappen strategy here, pitted onto the softs when his team told him not to, and he's going to try and steal that fastest lap too. Playing the game on easy mode, playing it with pure domination from start to finish. 3/10 clear in qualifying, and he has been pretty much 3/10 lap clear the entire race, if not more, against some of these guys, especially in that middle sector. Battery getting burned, just making sure he's keeping the car nice and straight, gets it over far right as he possibly can, tucks it tidy to the apex, uses all the track on the exit, and again here on the inside, doesn't want to hit that curb, it's slightly more raised, it will unsettle the car. So he's just going to try and guide the car a bit further out. Here, want to try and keep it as tight. It's a flat curb. This one, raised, avoid it if you can. And then get the power down as hard and aggressively as you can do on the exit without spinning those rear tyres up. Again, cut a lot of the inside there. It will unsettle the car, but it is still quicker. Now, up through the castle section. Go tight on the inside and just try and thread the needle through all these apexes. Not much throttle input required. Lots of off-throttle steering, really. And then when you get on the throttle here, it is straight line it. Try and keep that line of least resistance all the way through this sequence of corners and then into a very, very tough braking zone as the track falls away from you. Don't touch the curb on the inside. You'll ping yourself into the wall, and Khan once again has done it perfectly. Same again here on the inside curb. Don't touch it. Exit curb, you kind of can. It's slightly raised, but not enough to upset the car, and this is already looking like an absolutely stonking lap from Khan. He's gained over 7 seconds on Crow since the pit stop that he had, where he had to overtake him, of course, too. This has been truly an unbelievably dominant performance from Bilal Khan, and this lap time will be unbelievably dominant too, one will have to imagine. There it is, 41.8, over a second quicker than anybody else who's put a lap time together thus far. And this one is as good as over here on the penultimate lap. I don't think we'll be seeing too many more changes for position. Mikkel has managed to fend off Zazil behind. Joshua Johnston is closing, but not quickly enough, really, to get onto the back of Fazer. This has been a great showing from Khan, to be honest. It's probably one of his best ever wins here in TOTL. And he's got a few that he can add to that title, or that can try and contest that title at least. Truly has been dominant from start to finish. Led from the start, had a little bit of an altercation with Crow every now and again, just getting a little bit held up. But as soon as he got by him and stayed by him, that was it. Absolutely perfect. Inch perfect, really, here at Baku. Proving again that he is the class of the field. With no Wizard this time in this season to try and contend with him. No Aaron this week, no Robs this week. Nobody really who can hold a candle to the might that is Khan. This has been an incredible race as he starts his final time around this Baku City circuit. A big shout out, of course, as well to Ryan Crowhurst, who has delivered on his first race back in the TOTL Championships. Obviously, a former champion himself. really has demonstrated why here today. A champion's drive, kept his nose clean, tried to do all that he could to inhibit, to impede, to hamper Khan at the start of the race, to keep him behind for as long as he could. I think he knew that was his best strategy, just had to try and disrupt the rhythm, make Khan make a mistake. But seriously, after a few messy laps on the first stint, seems to have really settled into things here in the Alfa Romeo. This circuit, he's never really been a massive fan of this track. He was really quick on it in qualifying sessions, but in race trim, it never really materialized, if memory serves correctly. Ryan, though, done a great job here today. He's fended off Jay Rasta. The undercut that he did was a stroke of genius to try and secure that P2. And as such, I think he's realised as well that that Khan was just a little bit too far out of reach today. But I'm sure he won't be deterred. I'm sure he'll be putting the time back in now. And we know from experience that on his day, he is as good as anybody and can be as good as Khan. So with a little bit more time, a little bit more preparation, a little bit more race practice, I suppose, he'll be right back in the mix at the front, I'm sure. But for our leader today, for our winner, Bilal Khan is going to now round what is officially the final corner. Go past that DRS sign. Start wiggling the car as he comes down that front straight. Getting ready to just absolutely crash it into a wall over the line. And he does. He is the winner of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix by 14 seconds, no less. That gap will come down ever so slightly as Ryan just straight lines it rather than wiggling it all the way to the finish line. It's been an absolutely great race from Ryan Crowhurst, but another podium here for the unassuming Jay Rasta. Started third, finishes third. A great race from him. Really took a candle to Ryan at the start of that one. Zenik comes home with a great recovery drive into P4. Fazer will come home in P5. He was narrowly escaped the DRS from Joshua Johnston, so that'll be a P6 for the McLaren on the mediums. That's a great result for him. And it looks like Mikkel is going to be the one to secure P7. 21 seconds back, of course. And then it will be the rest of the boys to try and cross the line. Edster's Ghost will be finishing out at some point here in 10th place. But Mikkel, a good result for him. I think that little altercation where he span around and had to change his front wing, probably not what he wanted, but held off EOJ, held off Zazel, and as such holds on to P7. Apologies again for the lack of safety cars. I don't know if that was a setting that needs to be looked at, but last week with this same setting it was on, so unsure what's happened there. But nonetheless, another good week of racing, another good time to be alive. We will see you at the same time next week on Friday at 8 PM BST. And another win for Bilal Khan as he looks like he's running away with this championship now. Fastest lap for the man too. Really is a absolutely mercurial performance from him. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. Hopefully, some of the more protagonist members of the grid up next week too. We'll see you then. Have a great week. We'll see you later.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in.